Great. So I ask you a question this week. What kind of content do you want to see from this channel in these weekly episodes? And I got a lot of really good feedback and some great episode ideas moving forward. However, I did see a little bit of a trend starting to emerge, and it was a desire for an expansion on the Largo Tote video. Mainly 3 specific questions. Number 1, how I was actually packing the bag. Number 2, what camera equipment I was using. And then number 3, what was I using to protect my camera equipment while it was inside the Largo Tote? So I'm going to try to answer those 3 questions in this week's video. And if you have additional questions about this topic, please leave them in the comments down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Before I can answer the question of how I pack my dry bag, I need to talk about the bag itself, the footprint. The Largo Tote is actually 6 inches wide. Front to back, it's 14.5 inches long. And when the bag is rolled closed, it's 12 inches tall. So the only way that you can use the full capacity of this bag is if you learn how to layer your equipment in. Kind of like a lasagna.
Lasagna! Where have you been all my life, mon chéri?
Anyway, you get the point. But there's a hierarchical question or value that comes with each of the different pieces of gear that you have. And that will change from day to day based off of what you're going to prioritize using that day. For me and my camera needs, I traditionally will carry a drone and a mirrorless setup down the river. The drone to show off the perspective and to give a sense of place, and then the mirrorless setup to be able to capture slow motion, tight action portions of the sequence. If I'm trying to prioritize shooting with the mirrorless camera, the first piece of equipment that I'll layer in will either be my first aid kit and my drone, then I'll follow it up with some lenses, and then the mirrorless body, which coincidentally would go here if I wasn't filming a talking head portion, and then last but not least, the actual towel itself. And the towel is super important. We want to use a big enough towel, quick dry towel at that, to be able to dry our hands and our face off every time we open the bag. You have to remember, we're kayaking down the river. We're covered with water. We're having a great time splish splashing down the river. But every time you reach into that bag, if you're dripping water all over your expensive camera gear, you do risk actually damaging it. And so we want to make sure that the towel that we're using is going to absorb enough water that we're able to dry our hands and our face off before we start using our expensive camera equipment. So now that you know how I like to pack my dry bag, let's talk about the ways that I keep it organized and then I keep my camera gear safe inside the dry bag. These padded inserts that I found on Amazon for cameras are fantastic, and the best feature about them is this drawstring at the top. These camera inserts are actually large enough for me to fit my drone, 3 extra batteries, a controller, and my phone inside. And the drawstring again at the top will allow me to pull that camera insert closed, and then I have this beautiful organized piece that goes inside my dry bag. I use a second one of these for my mirrorless camera and 1 additional lens. And for any additional lenses that I choose to bring on the river or a microphone, I'll use padded lens cases to keep everything neat, organized, and padded inside the dry bag. All of these items that I've found that work well for my use case, I'll link in the description down below. So now we're talking camera gear. And I'm purposefully going to be very general here because I find myself falling prey to wanting to upgrade my camera because this person uses it, or purchase a new drone because it's the newest thing out there. Instead, I want to focus on the use case, where we're going to be using this equipment. And we're packing it in a dry bag, we're carrying it to the river, and we're taking it down the river. And I wish I had considered this before I purchased my last camera, before the one I have now. And I purchased this amazing camera that required a lot of additional add-ons to make it work and function the way I needed it to. But that meant that I was carrying additional weight. And because of that, I didn't use the camera as often. And so portability, something small, something lightweight, the more portable the camera is, the more often you'll use it. If it's lighter weight and you have to carry less items to use the camera, you will use it more often. And so when you're making your decision, obviously budget is the most important portion of this conversation. Don't spend more money than you can afford. However, inside your budget, especially if you're looking to create content around whitewater, you want to find something lightweight and portable. And that's what I focused on this time around was finding something that was lightweight, portable, and didn't require a lot of additional pieces to use to get the full functionality of the camera. And so that would be my advice to you when it comes to the camera itself. If you do have questions about what I'm using in particular, I'm happy to answer those, but I'm not going to answer it here in the video because I want you to focus more on having something that's portable that you're willing to carry, because the camera that you have with you is better than the best camera that you're not willing to bring with you. Sounds good? Perfect. Before you take your camera gear out on the river, we've got to cover a couple of housekeeping items. Number one, I know that I keep my camera bag between my legs, and I'm not advocating for this. It is easier to get in and out of the boat quickly and effectively with a camera if it's between your legs. However, if you need to swim, this is going to make it exponentially more difficult to get out of your boat. And so with that in mind, the only thing that I can do is advocate for you keeping your camera gear behind the seat in your kayak. That is the only thing that is quote unquote safe when it comes to carrying camera gear down the river. The other thing that I really want to stress and emphasize is using a locking carabiner. Regardless of if you choose to keep the bag between your legs or if you go behind your seat, the only carabiner that you should use inside your kayak is a locking carabiner that is then screwed closed. It has to be something that will not accidentally open. I've seen a lot of weird things happen over the years, and I've seen people get clipped into their non-locking carabiners as they go to swim out of their kayaks. So big thing. Use a locking carabiner regardless of where you choose to put your camera bag. I hope this video was helpful to you, and if it was, please consider giving it a big thumbs up. And if you have any feedback for me, leave it in the comments down below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so, and I can't wait to see all the awesome things that you create in the future. We'll see you soon.